Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday service of Now Creations. Always a joy to remind you that the most important aspect of your life is that presence within you, that part of you that has not left your source. Always the most important thing to be in contact with it daily. Hope that our service today will assist us to do precisely this, to be in contact with our best. A couple of comments. Tonight, if you're able to join us, we'll be having What is Light Body from 7 to 8:30. Always a very interesting evening. But next Sunday, January 19th and January 26th, we're going to be having two presentations by John Shartle concerning his attendance at the Soul Foundation, which researches UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena, formerly known as UFOs. So wonderful organization. And we hope to have Peter Skafish, one of the founding members of Soul, to join us. You would have received an email for this on Friday. If you have not received the email, please let me know, or simply go to our website, click on Cosmic Citizen Committee Reports. It'll be the first report, number 13. We ask you to download that report and have it available for the presentation. This is a very important night for Now Creations. I encourage you to not only attend, but perhaps also to invite family and friends who might be interested in UAPs. Let's begin. My dear friends, over the past several weeks, we have presented some very in-depth teachings about our spirituality. We have focused on several philosophers and spiritual avatars in support of these teachings. What I am most pleased with is your response to these deeper spiritual teachings. You have responded to the challenge because you clearly see that such deeper teachings are precisely what you need to develop your pathway forward. You need to go deeper in order to go forward. You have desired to grow spiritually, because you understand that such spiritual growth is the result of all of your former past lives. It's what they have been preparing you for. And you are now ready, you're willing, and certainly able to move forward on your own spiritual path. What becomes extremely important for us is to understand that this spiritual path is what all of us have been waiting for. Regardless of what we've done in the past, it's this present spiritual path that is our movement forward. Hopefully, you will walk it more and more beautifully. While today's teaching will not deal with philosophers and spiritual avatars, it will demand of you a dedication to everyday living in such a way that will foster a greater spiritual path. Today's teaching is a little more earthy than ethereal. It's a little more from an everydayness of life, but it also demands a similar depth as you will live it. Today's teaching is entitled, What's Your Language? What's your language? I will begin with a few comments about language in general, followed by some principles of language, and then focus on the practical applications of language for those of us who are on our spiritual path. So let's begin with a few observations about language, about our words. I think that we would all agree that words can be very, very powerful. They often can make or break a situation with another person or in a group. We all realize how encouraging words such as "you can do it," can be so uplifting. Yet we also realize that discouraging words, such as, you're never going to amount to anything, can have a devastating effect on a person, not just on that day, but for many years into their lives. So let me now share with you a personal incident which occurred this past fall. A friend of mine was putting up some additional fencing on my garden to keep the deer out and to prop up my climbing beans for the spring. As he was doing so, a thought came to my mind, but I couldn't say it. A thought came to my mind, but I couldn't say it. It just would not come out. Something within me simply said, no, don't say it. Don't say it. The thought was, as the fencing would be able to protect the deer entering into the garden and support for my climbing beans, the thought was the fencing would kill two birds with one stone. But as I said, I just couldn't say it. I had used this phrase nonchalantly in the past, such as going to the bank and maybe then stopping for gas, killing two birds with one stone, or visiting two friends who were on the same street. But this time, something within me simply could not say anything about killing two birds. It just would not come out. I finally ended up saying to my friend that the fencing would solve two problems, the problems of the deer and the climbing beans. The birds would remain safe. And then a few things hit me on the way that we have used language in the past, perhaps something we never gave very much thinking to. But now I think we do watch our language a little better. For example, rather than saying, I'll try that, perhaps in the past we would say, I'll take a shot at it, or I'll take a stab at it. Or rather than saying, now, the traffic was heavy, perhaps in the past we would have said, the traffic was murder. The old phrases, which we continue to use, oftentimes seem to indicate a much lower energy that is inherent in our language. A much lower energy inherent in our language. While the F word is still not used by many, many still use phrases such as, he's a pain in the ass. Or more popularly, that really pisses me off. Even though we try to clean up the language by saying I'm PO'd, or I'm TO'd, ticked off, or that person is just a pain in the old wazoo, the real problem is that such language is indicative of a lower social energy in dealing with others. Such language is indicative of a lower social energy in dealing with others. Of course, people will say, well, there's nothing wrong with such language. It's just the way of talking in today's society. But there is something wrong. There is something wrong with it. What's wrong with it is, as I have said, it indicates a lower energy in dealing with others. When someone says, that person really pisses me off, it's clearly saying that that person has control over you, and that you have allowed that person to bring out a lower energy in you. Now, to you who are growing spiritually, either or both of these comments no longer satisfy you, while someone else couldn't care less, you are not so careless. It does matter to you if you allow someone's words or actions to control you. And it does matter to you that they cause a lower energy to come forward in you. You are clearly aware that your language is indicative of the energy that is going on within you. And it's quite important to watch your language because you know your words matter. And you want your words to be more truthful as to who you are. Let's now turn our attention to two related principles of language. The first principle is one with which you are familiar, but I will give it a new twist. The familiar wording is this: it's not what you say, but rather how you say it. We certainly have witnessed this on many occasions when one can say something very sincerely like, yes, that's right. Or sarcastically, yeah, that's right. But there's the twist that I would like to give to this saying. Here's the twist. It's not what you say, and it's not even how you say it, but rather it's where it's coming from. It's not what you say, nor even how you say it, but rather it's where it's coming from. And it will come from only one of two places. It will either come from your limited human personality and perhaps vocabulary, regardless of how well-intentioned you are, or it will come forth from your spiritual center with a much better vocabulary. So let's now address this twist, where it comes from two larger perspectives. The first larger perspective is the law of attraction. Many of you are quite familiar with the law of attraction from its general perspective. The general perspective can be summed up in these words: whatever you focus on increases, and whatever you stop giving attention to falls away. In other words, you will reap what you sow. However, there is a much deeper aspect to the law of attraction that contains the truth, that is so very important for us regarding the watching of our language. Please now listen very attentively. The deeper truth to the law of attraction is this: you will not just get what you say, and you will not just get what you hope for. You will get what you feel. You will not get what you say, and you're not going to get what you hope for. You're going to get how you feel. You know this. You've experienced it many times. Didn't get what you wanted, but you got exactly what you felt. The law of attraction does not lie in these two ways. You can do all the sweet talking that you want. You can use all the honey words in the world, but you will get you will get what you feel. Not what you hope for, but rather what you feel at your innermost energy. You know this. You have experienced this time and time again. You get your innermost energy, not what you hoped for. The law of attraction does not lie. You might fool others by your words, but you can't fool yourself. You will get exactly what you feel at your innermost being. This understanding of getting what you feel might be very helpful to you. It will explain why you often did not get what you wanted or hoped for in the past, because your language did not match your feelings, the real inner you. While your language and hopes were sincere, the inner you, how you felt, was often unsure, doubtful, and confused. And you ended up getting exactly that, what you felt. Confused, doubtful, not what you had hoped for. This is an enormous lesson to learn. Before we move into a deeper understanding of getting our language to match our feelings, there is a second aspect of lower energy language, the state of not being connected to the inner energy of your God spirit, that is very important for us. We all know that words have power, and there are many what I would call melodies of language. Melodies, M-A-L-A-D-I-E-S, melodies, many language mistakes in today's society. You know many of them: lying, divisive speech, harsh words, senseless comments, and the like. And there are other language maladies that are not considered quite as bad, but are just as hurtful. A few examples are: first, words that belittle others, words that are meant to hurt others, and they do. Secondly, sarcastic comments that embarrass others. Or thirdly, saying something funny at another person's expense. And sometimes even worse, there are those nonverbal maladies, such as raised eyebrows, a smirk, or simply turning your head. There's a lot of bad language going on in today's society. And there are two comments to be made before proceeding to the main point of watching your language. The first point is this. It's taken from one of the 4 agreements in the delightful book by Don Miguel Ruiz in 1997. One of the 4 agreements is not to take things personally. This is such an important thing for us in our spiritual growth. Not to allow the low energy comments of others to penetrate your mental, emotional field. This is difficult to do. Because oftentimes we wear our emotions on our sleeves. And sometimes, in a sense, when we hear a negative comment, it goes right to us. It's very, very difficult not to take something personally. A very helpful way of not taking something personally is to consider the source of the comment. Who is making the comment? Not what you heard, but who made it? Is it someone that you're fond of? Is it someone that is really concerned about your welfare? Consider the source, not the comment. And secondly, as you well know by now, it is hurting people who make such hurtful comments. Rather than taking the comment personally, it's important to realize that such people are in very low energy. Ask yourself the question, would you want to be in their frame of mind? Would you want to be in that hurting person's frame of mind? I doubt it. The Course in Miracles is right on target in this area when it states that such people are really issuing a cry for help and union. Yes, it's true that such people are difficult to connect with, but it's a very, very major important point for us that we not disconnect from them, that we not allow their comments to break our energetic unity with them, which then drags us down into that lower energy. This is a very important spiritual point for us. You are clearly seeing that watching one's language is so very important. It's not just actually that you have to watch your own language, but you also have to watch the language of others. Enough said in this area. Now, before we get to the main teaching about language, let me share with you a very interesting but very light-hearted comment about language. And let me say again, I am making this comment in a very light-hearted way. But it does make me laugh every once in a while. And I must say, oftentimes, it's very, very, very true. The comment is, the person had nothing to say and gave wordy evidence of the fact. The person had nothing to say and gave wordy evidence of the fact. Interesting, isn't it? With this comment in mind, let us now then proceed to the heart of today's teaching on watching your language. There was a time when each of us, I think, well, speaking for myself anyways, was rather sloppy in our language. And there was a time when we just didn't even know we were so sloppy. As the many times I said, I would kill two birds with one stone. We simply accepted the sayings of the time because we were so heavily involved with the times. We accepted the saying of the times because we were so involved with the times. We just went along with the language of the times. But not anymore. Not anymore. As we, you and I, have moved into a greater sense of spirituality, we have come to realize that our language starts with our sense of being. This is the most important thing I'm going to say today, that our language starts with our state of being. Before we say any words, we understand that we are connected to the God Spirit, and thus our words reflect the God Spirit, or the lack thereof. Before we speak, there is a feeling of a connectedness to all of life, and thus our words are spoken with a feeling of oneness. with everyone and everything. There was a time when we would have to work consciously on remembering that feelings come first, but not just feelings from the personality self, which are so easily hurt, but rather now feelings from our God Spirit that emit a sense of oneness with everyone and with everything. Before we utter words, we now know where our words come from. Before we utter words, we know where our words come from, because we enter into the silence of meditation on a regular basis, so that when our words come forward, they do so with a sense of kindness, a sense of love, a sense of offering inspirational words, uplifting language, because they come from the conscious connection with our source. Our language reflects this connection. Is it not true that our words carry the vibration of the loving God Spirit? They carry the vibration of our Christ consciousness. Even strong, intelligent words that are appropriate for the situation are said with an underlying sensitivity of what is true and appropriate for that situation. We just don't lose our center anymore. Such speaking, such watching of our language is reminiscent of the third step on the Buddhist Eightfold Path of Enlightenment. Only after the first two steps of right truth and right intention, and even before the fourth and fifth steps of right actions and right livelihood, the third step in the Eightfold Path is right speech. Right speech. Speech which promotes harmony and encourages others and is never divisive or hurtful. Are you now not beginning to see that to watch your language means, first of all, to begin with your sense of self? That's the progress we've made. You now know your sense of self, and you speak accordingly. Your words truly now reflect your being, your God Spirit. This is an enormous advance. There's one more comment that will be helpful to us. There is a saying in everyday life that can best be understood from your fifth dimensional self in knowing who you are. These are the words, but again, understand they do not apply to a third dimensional lower self. They do not apply to a third dimensional lower self. You know the words. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. This is often not true of a third dimensional person who takes those words personally. But now they are more and more true of you, because you now understand that both you and the other who might be making the comment are children of the oneness. And because you understand them, you don't take those words personally. And you understand the cry of help that is coming from another. Who's having some problems? In conclusion, I'm so very proud of so many of us who are now experiencing our spiritual centers with language to match. You are now speaking words of wisdom from your spiritual center, and your impact upon others is so much appreciated by them, so much noticed by them. You are such an uplifting presence in their lives by the words you speak. You do realize that your words matter more than ever, because now your words are reflecting your spirit. Oh yes, oh yes. We are watching our language in the groups that we're involved in, and especially in the group of Now Creations. And I'm happy to say, for the most part, we are speaking the same language. Let me now take you into meditation, and what a joy it is to do so. Nice, easy breathing. It is amazing how sloppy we can become in our language. It's amazing how the dams, the hells, or the whatevers just come out, just come out. And when you're in that energy, you just really know that, no, that isn't me. That isn't me. It's really not trying to be a goody two shoes by any means. And we're not just saying, what's your language? What's your language? We're really saying, what's yourself? Where are you? Where are you? What is your language reflecting? not so much about using bad language. The real question for you who are on a spiritual path is, are you using good enough language? Again, not a goody two shoes, good enough language. But a language that's coming from your spiritual center. And that law of attraction, which says you get not so much what your words or hopes are about, but rather you get your innermost feeling. That's a very powerful law and a very truthful one. How well you have progressed. You have progressed from what the mind might hope for to what your spirit now feels. Where's it coming from? Where's it coming from? Where's it coming from? Where's it coming from? Did you notice? Did you notice within the last minute, when you went a little deeper into yourself, when I asked you, where's it coming from? When you went a little deeper, did you notice a sense of joy and happiness in that little deeper part of you? Did you notice that? I bet you did. You're getting out of your head. You're getting out of your head more and more. And allowing the thoughts in your mind to be guided by the feelings of oneness within you. Oh, and by the way, it's important not just to not take things personally, but also do not give things personally. Do not give it personally. But most of all, it really just depends where you are in your own present heart space. My heart could just not say that old saying I used to say. I just couldn't say. But I can joyfully say, and happily do so, we just need to keep helping each other. Just keep helping each other, working our way forward, moving into a oneness and a joy, speaking words of wisdom, words of uplift, words of inspiration, words that make other people happy. And by the way, make us happy because they're coming from our spiritual center. So in closing this meditation, we could say as kind of an admonition, what's your language? But we could also say, what's your language? And see what it does. see what it does. And with that, let me invite you to move back into your breath, that lovely, lovely breath. Notice how good you feel. Just notice how good you feel. I think people are going to enjoy hearing your words today. They're going to love what you have to say. And with that, let me invite you to joyfully open your eyes. Happy to say these wonderful words. I am an eternal being of light and love. Thus, only good can come to me, and only good can come from me. And we are eternal beings of light and love. Thus, only good can come to us, and only good can come from us. What wonderful words. Namaste.